Hello, welcome to CGTN. Live from Beijing, I'm Pan Zheng. The 20th CPC Central Committee is holding a press conference to explain the guiding principles from its third plenary session, which is concluded on Thursday in Beijing. Now let's cross live to the scene.
Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, friends from the press, good morning. Welcome to the press conference of the CPC Central Committee. From July 15th to 18th, the 20th CPC Central Committee convened its third plenary session in Beijing. As we enter a new era and embark on a new journey, this is a vitally important session for further deepening reform comprehensively as the CPC continues committing itself to reform and opening up and to advancing Chinese modernization. All agenda items were completed. The resolution of the CPC Central Committee on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization was considered and adopted. We have invited leading officials today to give you a briefing on the plenary session and answer your questions. We have with us today Mr. Mu Hong, Vice Chairperson of the National Committee of the CPPCC and Deputy Director of the Office of the Central Commission for Comprehensively Deepening Reform. Mr. Han Wenxiu, Deputy Director of the Office of the Central Financial and Economic Affairs Commission and Director of the Office of the Central Rural Work Leading Group. Mr. Shen Chunyao, Director of the Legislative Affairs Commission of the NPC Standing Committee. Mr. Huai Jinpeng, Secretary of the Leading Party Members Group of the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Education, Mr. Tang Fangyu, Deputy Director of the CPC Central Committee Policy Research Office. Now I give the floor to Mr. Tang Fangyu. Friends from the media, good morning. I'm happy to be here and brief you about the third plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee. As you all know, the third plenary session was convened in Beijing from July 15th to 18th in Beijing. The Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee presided over the plenum. General Secretary Xi Jinping delivered important addresses. Central Committee members and alternate members attended the session. Members of the Standing Committee of the Central Commission for Discipline and Inspection and leading officials of other relevant departments were present in a non-voting capacity. Some of our colleagues working at the primary level who were delegates to the 20th National Party Congress, along with a number of academics, also attended in a non-voting capacity. At the session, the Central Committee heard and discussed the report on the work of the Political Bureau presented by General Secretary Xi Jinping on behalf of the Political Bureau, and considered and adopted the resolution on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. All agenda items were completed. At the session, the Central Committee fully affirmed the work of the Political Bureau since the second plenary session of the 20th Central Committee. It was unanimously agreed that in the face of a grave and complex international environment and arduous domestic tasks for reform, development, and stability, the Political Bureau has earnestly implemented the guiding principles of the 20th National Party Congress and the first and second plenary sessions of the 20th Central Committee. Under its leadership, solid steps have been taken to build China into a modern socialist country in all respects. Our work over the past year and more demonstrates that as long as we unite around the leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, use Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era to strengthen unity in thinking and action, take concerted, proactive actions, adopt a pragmatic approach, and make concrete efforts, we will continue achieving new victories in building a modern socialist country in all respects. The most important outcome of the session is the adoption of the resolution on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. This is made the theme of this session after careful deliberation by the Central Committee. To begin with, in the course of advancing Chinese modernization, there are multiple complicated contradictions and issues. Overcoming such difficulties require further steps in comprehensively deepening reform. It means that relations of production should adapt to the productive forces, the superstructure to the economic base, and national governance to social development. This will provide a strong impetus and institutional support for Chinese modernization. Secondly, Chinese modernization is a central task for the party on its new journey in the new era. That means all the momentous strategic plannings of the party and the country, including comprehensively deepening reform, should be designed and delivered to advance Chinese modernization. By making deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization the theme, the Central Committee has a good grasp on what is at the core and pivotal, and the theme is in and of itself highly significant. The drafting of the resolution was conducted under the leadership of the Central Committee. General Secretary Xi Jinping was head of the drafting group. He personally steered the process, organized surveys, gave his guidance, and set the direction, playing a decisive role throughout. The drafting group acted faithfully on the important instructions of General Secretary Xi Jinping, took stock of successful practices, kept to the right direction, and focused on key areas to ensure reforms are to the point. The group took a people-centered, values-based approach, adopted systems thinking, and strengthened holistic plannings. It carried out solid topical researches, surveys, interviews, and studies. Through various means and different channels, it took a democratic approach by listening to the advice of the people inside and outside of the party so as to ensure there is broad consensus for reforms. The drafting process itself is a process to plan for and advance reforms, and also one that inspires thoughts and hope. In total, the resolution has 15 parts and 60 items divided into 3 sections. The first section is preambular paragraphs illustrating the significance and requirements in taking further steps in comprehensively deepening reform to advance Chinese modernization. The second section is the operative paragraphs laying out the reform measures on different dimensions as guided by economic structural reform. The third section is about strengthening the party's leadership over reforms and deepening institutional reforms for party building. It consists of over 300 important reform measures that bear on the system, mechanisms, and institutions. Some of them are designed to improve and enhance past reform practices, while others are new measures driven by realistic needs and based on pilot programs. During the plenary session, attendees have had heated discussions on and spoke highly of the resolution. It was agreed that this resolution carries forward steps for comprehensively deepening reform since the 3rd plenary session of the 18th Central Committee, and is also a new chapter for advancing Chinese modernization on the new journey. This is another important guiding document in the history of our party. I will leave it at that. Thank you. I thank Mr. Tang Fangyu. Now, let me give the floor to Mr. Mu Hong. He will walk us through the major achievements on comprehensively deepening reform since the new era and talk about the overarching goals and principles to take steps further. Thank you.
Friends from the press, good morning. I will give you a briefing on the part of the decision about the major accomplishments achieved in comprehensively deepening reform in the new era, and the overall objectives and the major principles of further deepening reform comprehensively. In its opening chapter, the decision of the third plenum states that the third plenum of the 11th CPC Central Committee is of epoch-making significance. It ushered in a new phase of reform and opening up and a socialist modernization drive. The third plenum of the 18th CPC Central Committee is also of epoch-making significance. It kicked off the new journey of comprehensively deepening reform and systematically and holistically planning and advancing reform in the new era, and open new grounds for China's reform and opening up. This is an important judgment made by the CPC Central Committee on the major accomplishments achieved in comprehensively deepening reform in the new era. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, the CPC Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, has rallied the entire party, the military, and the Chinese people in breaking the shackles of stale thinking and tearing down barriers erected by vested interests with great historical initiative, tremendous political courage, and a strong sense of responsibility. With the courage of braving uncharted waters, taking on tough problems, and navigating potential dangers, the Party Central Committee has made resolute efforts to remove institutional obstacles in all areas, achieve the transition from exploratory reform for breakthroughs in individual sectors and areas to more integrated, focused, and comprehensive deepening reform, and put in place the foundational institutional frameworks in all areas. All this has provided effective institutional safeguards for completing the building of a moderately prosperous society in all respects and achieving the first centenary goal of the party, and enable the country to embark on a new journey toward building a modern socialist country in all respects. To be specific, first, the strength of socialism with Chinese characteristics have been reinforced and expanded. The foundational system is getting more solid, the basic systems are being improved, and innovation in important systems have produced fruitful results. Through the development of the whole process, people's democracy, we have refined the system of institutions through which the people run the country to make it more comprehensive, extensive, and well-aligned. We have advanced the building of the Chinese system of socialist rule of law and have further improved institutions and the system to ensure sound legislation, strict law enforcement, impartial administration of justice, and society-wide observance of law. We have upheld the guiding role of Marxism in the ideological domain and constantly improved and developed the system of advanced socialist culture. Second, reform has injected strong impetus into China's economic development and put the Chinese economy on the path of high-quality development. We have continued reforms to develop the socialist market economy, improved modern market system, advanced reforms for the market-based allocation of production factors, and deepened reform of state-owned capital and SOEs, and also encouraged the growth of the private sector. We have put in place the system in support of all-round innovation, deepened reform of the fiscal, taxation, and financial systems, improved the system and the mechanism of integrated urban-rural development, accelerated the building of a new pattern of development, and have built new systems for high-standard open economy. We have improved the institutional environment to ensure effective functioning of the market, dynamic operation of micro-entities, and a sound macroeconomic control. Third, we have achieved historic, systemic, and holistic transformations in many fields, and have further modernized the country's governance system and capacity. For example, we have conducted 2 rounds of large-scale reforms of the party and state institutions and refined the system for the party and state institutions to better perform their duties in light of the new circumstances. We have established the ecological conservation systems and put in place a framework of ecological conservation systems that ensures tight prevention at the source, strict management in the process, due compensation for damage, and serious punishment for violations, so as to keep our skies blue and the waters clear. We have carried out the most extensive and deep-going reform of the national defense and the armed forces since the founding of the new China, and achieved holistic and groundbreaking transformation of the people's armed forces. Fourth, people's sense of fulfillment, happiness, and security has continued to improve. We have pushed forward institutional innovation in key sectors such as income distribution, employment, education, medical services, and social security, and put in place the world's largest education system, social security system, and a medical health system. We have established sound systems and institutions of targeted poverty alleviation, which has enabled us to win the largest battle against poverty in human history. We have improved decentralized, unified, efficient, and authoritative leadership system for national security, established a sound emergency management system, and developed a social governance system based on collaboration, participation, and shared benefits. Fifth, the party has tempered itself through revolution and grown stronger. We have improved the party's leadership systems and enhanced the supervision system of the party and the state. We have established sound systems and institutions to ensure that officials do not have the audacity, opportunity, or desire to be corrupt, ensure the party central committee's authority and its centralized, unified leadership, and guarantee that the party fulfills its core role of exercising overall leadership and coordinating the efforts of all sides. These historic achievements are attributed to the homesmanship of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, and the scientific guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. Since the third plenum of the 18th CPC Central Committee, General Secretary Xi Jinping has personally led, directed, and promoted the efforts of comprehensively deepening reform, and pioneered the innovation in reform practices with theoretical innovations. He has provided systemic instructions on the mission, direction, goals, tasks, impetus, and methods of reform, and put forward a series of new ideas, new viewpoints, and new conclusions regarding comprehensively deepening reform. They have answered major theoretical and practical questions of what banner to hold and what path to follow in the new era, as well as why we need and how to comprehensively deepen reform, and demonstrated the power of truth and great relevance in the cause of guiding and steering reform practices. They have also provided a powerful intellectual instrument for further deepening reform comprehensively. Standing at a new historic starting point, the decision has laid out the overall objectives of further deepening reform comprehensively, that is, to continue improving and developing the system of socialism with Chinese characteristics, and modernizing China's system and capacity for governance. By 2035, we will have finished building a high-standard socialist market economy in all respects, further improve the system of socialism with Chinese characteristics, generally modernized our system and capacity for governance, and basically realized socialist modernization. All of this will lay a solid foundation for building China into a great modern socialist country in all respects by the middle of this century. These overall objectives are consistent with the general objective of comprehensively deepening reform set out at the third plenum of the 18th CPC Central Committee, and well aligned with the strategic planning of the 20th CPC National Congress. They have pointed a clear direction for further deepening reform comprehensively. It is stated in the decision that to further deepen reform comprehensively, we must implement the principles of upholding the party's overall leadership, taking a people-centered approach, upholding fundamental principles and breaking new ground, taking institution building as our main task, exercising law-based governance on all fronts, and applying systems thinking. These 6 principles have captured the essence of General Secretary Xi Jinping's important instructions on comprehensively deepening reform, and summarized the valuable experience we have gained from our efforts to deepen reform comprehensively since the launch of reform and opening up, particularly in the new era. They must be strictly observed and consistently upheld as we further deepen reform comprehensively. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mu. I now give the floor to Mr. Han Wenxiu to tell us about reform in economic and livelihood sectors. Good morning, friends from the press. General Secretary Xi pointed out that in accelerating reform, economic structural reform must be the spearhead, and also livelihood improvement should be the main task. The decision has identified high-quality development as the primary task of building China into a modern socialist country in all respects, and made comprehensive planning for economic and livelihood sectors, which carries very important weight. So I'll give you some background in 7 aspects. First, building high-standard socialist market economy. The decision stresses that we need to better leverage the role of the market, create a more fairer and more dynamic market environment, stimulate the internal drive and the creativity of the whole society. We need to follow through on the two unswervingly policy and ensure that economic entities of various ownership develop side by side and complement their strength. On the one hand, we need to deepen reform of state-owned capital and SOEs to make them stronger, better, and bigger, boost their core functions and core competitiveness, and also conduct accounting of economic value added of state sector. State-owned enterprises need to build themselves into original technology innovation hubs. In industries such as energy and railway, we need to promote independent operation of natural monopoly segments and a market-based reform of competitive segments. On the other hand, we need to create enabling environment and provide more opportunities for the development of the non-public sector. Improve the long-term mechanism for private enterprises to take part in major national projects and support capable private enterprises in leading key national technological research and development initiatives, and regulate administrative inspection concerning private enterprises. Rule of law is the best business environment. We need to formulate the law on the promotion of private sector. The decision stresses that we need to promote entrepreneurial spirit and speed up the efforts to develop more world-class companies. This is a requirement for business entities of all types. Accelerating the building of a high-standard market system is a major reform task, and the decision has laid out 3 key initiatives. One is to build a unified national market, which includes unified construction land market for urban and rural areas, integrated national technology and data market, a unified, standardized and information sharing, bidding and a public resource trading platform, an integrated circulation rules and standards, and a unified national power market. Second, we need to promote market-based reform for the allocation of production factors. We need to improve the market regime and the rules concerning production factors such as labor, capital, land, knowledge, technology management, data. Third, we need to refine the systems underpinning the market economy, which include the improvement of mechanisms concerning property rights protection, information disclosure, market access, bankruptcy, exit, and credibility-based regulation. The market economy is essentially a rule of law economy. The decision stresses that it is important to prevent and redress the use of administrative and criminal means to intervene into economic disputes and impose same punishment on the same violation of property rights and lawful interests of economic entities of all types of ownership. Secondly, we will promote the improvement of high-quality development system and mechanism. General Secretary Xi Jinping put forward the innovative concept of new quality productive forces. This is a major theoretical and a practical innovation, and it will inject new impetus into high-quality development. It is stated in the decision that we need to speed up the formation of production systems that are better aligned with new quality productive forces, strengthen the mechanism for upgrading traditional industry industries, improve the development policies and governance system for strategic industries, establish a system for increasing input in future industries, and improve policy systems for promoting digital industrialization and industrial digitization, and mobilize all advanced production factors toward the development of new quality productive forces and substantially increase total factor productivity. The decision stresses that we need to promote integration of real economy and digital economy, accelerate the development of modern service industry, strengthen modern infrastructure, and enhance the resilience and the security of industrial and supply chains. All these are intrinsic demands of high-quality development. And thirdly, we need to improve macroeconomic governance system. The decision stresses that we need to build a system for formulating and implementing national strategies, improve the system for national economic and social development planning, deepen reform of fiscal taxation and financial systems, and enhance the consistency of macroeconomic policy orientations. We need to build new mechanisms for cross-administrative regional cooperation and development. To address the fiscal difficulties faced by the local governments and the grassroots level governments, we need to improve the fiscal relations between the central and local governments, increase the fiscal resources and expand tax bases of local governments, improve the match between the fiscal resources and administrative authority of county and municipal governments, enhance authority of central government, administrative authority of central government as appropriate, and increase the proportion of central government expenditure, and also prohibit the demand for matching funds by local governments. We will also study taxation system that is well aligned to the development of new forms of businesses, and also explore the establishment of management approach based on macro national balance sheet and improve the structural adjustment of existing assets. Fourthly, we need to improve the mechanism for integrated urban-rural development. And General Secretary Xi stressed that to deliver on the task of rural revitalization, we need to pursue the path of urban-rural integrated development. The decision states that we need to promote the system of providing basic public services through household registration based on permanent residence, speed up the process of granting permanent residency to rural migrant population, to consolidate and expand the outcome of poverty alleviation, and promote the strengthening of agricultural sector, farmers, and the rural development. The decision states that we need to improve the regular mechanism for preventing relapsing into poverty, establish a tiered and categorized assistance mechanism for low-income rural population and underdeveloped regions, establish interprovincial compensation system between grain-producing and consuming regions, enhance the mechanism for investment in rural vitalization, and cultivate new business forms in rural areas. Fifthly, we need to enhance high-standard opening up. It is required by the decision that we need to embrace high-standard international trading rules, expand institutional opening up, build a high-standard new open economy system. We will increase unilateral opening up to least developed countries, expand opening up on our own initiative, expand the opening up of commodity markets, service market, capital and labor markets in an orderly manner, and make life more convenient for foreign travelers in terms of the accommodation, medical services and payment, and coordinate the development of major landmark projects and small and beautiful livelihood projects, promote high-quality Belt and Road cooperation so that the big Chinese market will become big opportunity for the world. Sixth, we need to strengthen the livelihood improvement and a guarantee system. Reform will be advanced in areas where the people have the highest concerns and expectations. We will strengthen the system for promoting high-quality full employment, improve the system for ensuring equal opportunities, strengthen the social security system for people with flexible jobs, migrant workers, and people working in new forms of businesses. promote the expansion and decentralization of high-quality medical resources, promote the building of pro-natal society, and develop old age care industries and undertakings. These measures will enhance the sense of gains, happiness, and security of the people. Seventh, we will deepen reform of the ecological conservation system. Chinese modernization is one of harmony between humanity and nature. The decision stresses that we will move faster to improve the system and the mechanism for applying the principle that lucid waters and large mountains are invaluable assets, strengthen the carbon administration's logo system, and carbon footprint management system to promote green and low-carbon circular development. All in all, the decision has made comprehensive plans for economic and livelihood sectors, and they carry much values. They must be upheld and ensure good results. Thank you. I will now give the floor to Mr. Huai Jingpeng to tell us about reform in education, talent, and innovation.
下面我重点就教育、科技、人才、创新等领域的改革做一些介绍。党的20大突出了
The 20th CPC National Congress highlighted that innovation will remain at the heart of China's modernization drive and stressed that education, science and technology, and human resources are the foundational and strategic pillars for building a modern socialist country in all respects, and made it clear that China will become a leading country in education, science and technology and talent by 2035. The third plenary session made further plans on supporting all-round innovation. It was stated at the session that China will make coordinated efforts to promote integrated reform of institutions and mechanisms pertaining to education, science and technology, and human resources, and improve the new system for mobilizing resources nationwide to make key technological breakthroughs. These efforts will help boost the overall performance of China's innovation system and fully reflects the profound insight of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core on the nature and laws of innovation. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, our party has fully implemented the strategy for invigorating China through science and education, the workforce development strategy, and the innovation-driven development strategy, representing holistic efforts to strengthen China's education, science and technology, and workforce to further strengthen support for the modernization drive. Here, I wish to share with you 3 points. First, China has built the largest education system in the world. The availability of education at all levels has reached or exceeded the average level of middle and high-income countries. The gross enrollment rate of higher education is over 60%. This means that higher education is widely available in China by universally recognized international standards. The average length of schooling for new entrants to the workforce has exceeded 14 years, and 250 million people have received higher education. China is now home to the largest cohort of R&D personnel in the world and ranks second in the world in terms of total R&D expenditure. Basic research and original innovation have been strengthened, major breakthroughs have been made in core technologies in key fields, and the vitality of innovators and human resources has been further released. China has successfully joined the ranks of the world's innovators. In today's world, science and technology is the primary productive force, talent is the primary resource, and innovation is the primary driver of growth. We need talent for sci-tech innovation, and we need education for nurturing talent. As changes unseen in a century unfold rapidly across the world, a new round of sci-tech revolution and industrial transformation is gaining momentum. International competition for high-quality talent and the commanding heights of science and technology is unprecedentedly fierce. So this makes it urgent for us to nurture talent at home and achieve great self-reliance and strength in science and technology. To that end, the resolution of the plenary session made important arrangements for deepening the integrated reform of institutions and mechanisms pertaining to education, science and technology, and human resources. First, we will deepen comprehensive reform in education. Going forward, we will grow from a big education country to a strong education country, but that is a systemic leap and qualitative change. The resolution stresses accelerating the development of high-quality education system and promote the reform of education methods, school running models, management systems, and security mechanisms in a well-coordinated way to foster a new generation of young people to show the mission of realizing national rejuvenation. We will improve the mechanism for fostering virtue through education. And we will improve the all-round training system for nurturing talent with sound moral grounding, intellectual ability, physical vigor, aesthetic sensibility, and work skills. We will promote the reform of higher education institutions sorted by category and establish a discipline adjustment mechanism and personnel training model driven by sci-tech development. We will build the competence of teachers first and enhance teachers' ability to impart knowledge and education people and improve the long-term mechanism for strengthening teachers' professional integrity and content. We will make effective use of world-class education resources and factors of innovation to promote the opening up of high-quality education. Second, we will deepen structural sci-tech reform. We will adhere to the four-oriented strategic orientation and focus on stimulating the vitality of sci-tech innovation and creativity. The CPC Central Committee emphasized the need to improve the organizational mechanism for major sci-tech innovation, strengthen the development of national strategic sci-tech forces, and to make breakthroughs in core technologies and key fields. We will improve the management of science and technology programs, strengthen the forward-looking and pioneering layout of basic research. We will focus on the deep integration of sci-tech innovation and industrial innovation, reinforce the principal role of enterprises in innovation, and deepen reform of the mechanism for the application of sci-tech advances, and build a financial system for science and technology that is compatible with sci-tech innovation. Third, we will deepen the reform of the systems and mechanisms for talent development. We will focus on accelerating the formation of an effective mechanism for talent nurturing, use evaluation survey support and incentive. We will speed up efforts to build a contingent of personnel with expertise of strategic importance and focus on cultivating science strategists, first-class scientists and innovation teams, outstanding engineers, master craftsmen, and highly skilled workers, and improve the caliber of all types of personnel. We will strengthen the talent incentive mechanism, delegate power to employers, and loosen the constraint for talent. We will develop a personnel evaluation system based on innovation-related merit, quality results and contribution, and create a sound environment for the growth of talent. To sum up, we will further deepen reform to accelerate the building of a leading country in education, science and technology and talent, and foster a multiplier effect for promoting high-quality development to support and lead Chinese modernization. That's it from me now. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Huai Jinpeng. Now, Mr. Shen Chunyao will brief you on the reforms in democracy and the rule of law. Friends from media, good morning. I wish to brief you on the important arrangements of the third plenary session on democratic politics and the rule of law. On the new journey of further deepen reform comprehensively and advance Chinese modernization, we must, under the leadership of the party, extensively mobilize and effectively organize all the people to participate in reform and opening up and Chinese modernization as masters of the country. And we must work together to build a great modern socialist country in all respects and achieve national rejuvenation. So this is essential for and integral to further comprehensively deepening reform and advancing Chinese modernization under the new circumstances. It was made clear at the third plenary session that we will set the overall goal of further deepening reform in an all-around way, including focusing on the development of whole process people's democracy, preserving the organic unity of party leadership, the running of the country by the people, and law-based governance, making the institutions through which the people run the country more sound, promoting extensive, multi-level and institutionalized development of consultative democracy, and improving the system of socialist rule of law with Chinese characteristics, so that we can advance socialist rule of law in our country. In developing the whole process, people's democracy, we must always uphold the principal position of the people on the journey ahead, give full play to their motivation, initiative, and creativity, pool the wisdom and strength of all sectors, and better translate China's institutional strengths into effective governance. It was stressed at the plenary session that developing whole process people's democracy is an essential requirement of Chinese modernization. The Party Central Committee also made important arrangements for improving the institutions and systems of whole process people's democracy, and set out reform tasks for strengthening the system of the people being masters of the country and improving the mechanism of consultative democracy. The system of primary level democracy and the work pattern of building a broad united front. The general requirements are: we must firmly stay on a path of socialist political advancement with Chinese characteristics, uphold and improve our country's foundational, basic, and important political systems, to diversify the forms of democracy at all levels, and ensure that the concrete reality of the people being masters of the country is reflected in all aspects of our country's political and social life. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, the CPC Central Committee, with former Xi Jinping at its core, has incorporated the comprehensive advancement of law-based governance into the four-pronged comprehensive strategy. With unprecedented determination, measures, and efforts, the CPC Central Committee has made historic achievements in advancing the rule of law in all respects. It was stressed at the third plenary session that the rule of law provides an important guarantee for Chinese modernization. We must adhere to law-based governance, deepen reform, and promote Chinese modernization under the rule of law, and ensure that reform and the rule of law will go hand in hand, so that major reforms are made on legal basis, and the gains of reform are timely made into legal rules. At the plenary session, the Central Committee made important arrangements for improving the system of socialist rule of law with Chinese characteristics, which is to build an even better rule of law system to advance the rule of law in China, and form a complete system of legal norms, an efficient system of rule of law implementation, a strict system of rule of law supervision, and a robust system of rule of law guarantee, and a sound system of party regulations. On the journey ahead, we must give better play to the role of the rule of law in consolidating foundations, ensuring stable expectations, and delivering long-term benefits. We must fully implement the Constitution and safeguard its authority, and advance reforms in legislation, law enforcement, administration of justice, and observance of the law in a well-coordinated way. We must improve the mechanism for ensuring equality before the law, promote socialist rule of law, promote social fairness and justice, and see that all work of the state is carried out under the rule of law. At the plenary session, the Central Committee focused on deepening reform on legislation, further promoting law-based administration, improving the system and mechanism for fair law enforcement and justice administration, bettering the mechanism for building a law-based society, and strengthening the rule of law in foreign-related affairs, and laid out tasks and requirements for the rule of law reform. To uphold law-based governance and improve the Chinese system of socialist rule of law, we must implement the following important principles. First, we must follow the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on the rule of law and keep to the right political direction. Second, we must uphold the party's overall leadership over advancing the rule of law in China and ensure that the party's lines, principles, policies, decisions, and plans are fully and effectively implemented through the rule of law. Third, we must uphold the principal position of the people in the comprehensive advancement of law-based governance and deliver on the party's people-centered governance philosophy in all areas and stages of the work in advancing the rule of law in China. Fourth, we must uphold the status of the Constitution as the fundamental law of the state, strengthen the implementation of the Constitution, fulfill its mission, and safeguard its authority. Fifth, we must advance reform under the rule of law and improve the rule of law through reform, and properly handle the relationship between reform and the rule of law. That's all from me now. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shen Chunyao. Now, Mr. Tang Fangyu will brief you on strengthening the party's leadership of further deepening reform comprehensively and deepening institutional reforms related to party building.
Let me further elaborate on this point. The key to China's success lies in the CPC. Further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization requires the party to continue enhancing its leadership capacity and take steps to strengthen and improve party building. It is because of the critical importance of the party's leadership in party building, the Central Committee has made them an essential part when it reviews past practices, illustrates significance, identifies principles, and lays out reform measures throughout the resolution. The resolution affirmed the imperative to appreciate the decisive significance of the two establishes, strengthen the four consciousnesses, firm up the four confidences, and commit to the two upholds. It is imperative to use self-reform of the party to steer social transformation and ensure that the party remains at the core to lead the cause of socialism with Chinese characteristics. The resolution also stressed the need to enhance the capacity of the party for leadership and long-term governance, to innovate and improve the ways it leads and governs, to deepen institutional reforms for party building, and to strengthen the system for full and rigorous party self-governance. The resolution dedicated an entire part to work related to party leadership and institutional reform for party building. Broadly speaking, it focuses on three dimensions. First, a commitment to centralized, unified leadership of the CPC Central Committee over further deepening reform comprehensively. The Central Committee provides leadership in the designing, coordination, and implementation processes of reform. Relevant regions and departments will take creative steps in line with conditions on the ground to advance reforms that will turn into replicable practices to be applied on a broader scale. It's crucial to carry out the party's math line for the new era, i.e., learn what the people aspire to. In designing reform measures, expectations and intellectual input from the people, advice from the professionals, and successful practices at the primary level should all be factored in. Identifying reform tasks, it's important to focus on acute problems. Mechanisms for formulating key reform plans will be improved in order to identify problems promptly and course-correct when necessary. Second, deepening institutional reform for party building, it's imperative to energize more active, proactive, and ingenious steps across the entire party to deliver on the reforms and facilitate development. All party members should be guided by the party's new theories. Efforts will be made to deepen reform on officials' management system. A right approach will be used for selecting and appointing officials, which will bring their ability up to the latest standard and ensure that officials form a correct understanding of what benchmark is used to evaluate their performance. Shortfalls among some officials are to be addressed, including excessiveness, inaction, indecisiveness, or inability. The principle of three distinctions for management of officials will be applied so as to inspire enterprising spirit and pioneering efforts among them. The political and organizational functions of party organizations will be enhanced. Feasible steps are to be taken to improve party building in new types of economic and social organizations and among groups in new forms of employment so that party members will be better disciplined and their role better harnessed. Third, deepening efforts to improve conduct, build integrity, and combat corruption within the party. Concrete, targeted, and regular political oversight will be strengthened. And the party's 8-point decision on improving conduct implemented. Pointless formalities and bureaucratism are to be tackled to reduce burdens from the primary level. The 4 forms for oversight and discipline enforcement will be brought to bear so that the party's disciplines will be even more effective in constraining unwarranted moves and incentivizing actions. Mechanisms will be strengthened to ensure that officials do not have the audacity, opportunity, or desire to be corrupt, and that the breeding ground of corruption eradicated. The parties and countries' oversight systems will be improved, and the principle and responsibility, as well as oversight responsibility, better fulfilled for full and rigorous party governance. Malicious accusations will be better dealt with. The aforementioned steps laid out in the resolution demonstrate a strong commitment to pressing ahead with full and rigorous party self-governance. We are fully confident that under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, steady and rapid progress can be made in further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. That is all from me. Thank you. I thank Mr. Tang Fangyun. Now the floor is open. Before raising your question, please identify your media affiliation.
中间第2排。
谢谢主持人。中央广播电视总台央视记者提问。 进一步全面深化改革涉及经济和社会发展。
Further deepening reform comprehensively bears on multiple dimensions in the economy and society. It's a systems-based approach. It is stressed that reform should be both focused and integrated. How to make that work in order to serve Chinese modernization? Thank you. I will direct the question to Mr. Mu Hong.
谢谢您的提问。 坚持系统观念
Thank you for your question. Commitment to systems thinking is an inherent requirement of comprehensively deepening reform and an important approach to advancing reform. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, the Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core has been working to advance the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation while navigating transformation in the world unseen in a century. Guided by the new development philosophy, the Central Committee has been making plannings and advancing reforms in line with the 5-sphere integrated plan and the 4-pronged comprehensive strategy. Bearing in mind the characteristics of comprehensively deepening reform in the new era, General Secretary Xi Jinping emphasized the imperative to advance reforms in a systems-based, integrated, and coordinated way in order to bring out the full potential of reforms. A key highlight of the resolution this time is its enhanced focus on systems approach. In order to serve the goals and fulfill the tasks of Chinese modernization, the resolution aims at providing an overall planning and adopting a systems approach to reforms and introducing a set of major reform measures so that reform can be advanced with greater unity, coordination, and efficiency. With regard to ensuring that reform measures mutually support and reinforce each other, General Secretary Xi Jinping gave his instructions in his addresses to the plenary. We will work under the leadership of the CPC Central Committee and further improve the mechanisms for top-down reforms.
抓落实。
There are 3 key aspects.
一是抓紧对全会提出的重大改革举
First,
措进行
breaking the
细化
major
分类
reform measures down into
科学
various
制定改革的
categories,
任务书
formulate detailed
路线
plans,
图
roadmaps, and timetables,
合理安排改革的主次
sort
关
out
系，
the priority levels
先
of
后
different
顺序
reform measures,
推进节奏
sequence them accordingly,
出台
and
时机。
determine the pace and timing for rolling out
二是
policies.
狠抓改革的协
Second,
同推进，
coordinating efforts for
重
implementation.
点是明确
The key here
改革任务
is
的
to
分工、
clarify assignments,
责任主体，
distribute responsibilities, and make
做到
interagency
既各司
coordination.
其职，
This will
各
help
负其
ensure
责
that different departments
肌肉
fulfill
服
their
从大
respective
局，
roles on
互
one
助
hand
配，
and contribute their share to
确
the
保
big
上下
picture
贯通，
on the other. It's important to
条块
make
协
sure
同，
that decisions
左右
made
联
at a
动，
higher
形成
level
合
are
力，
delivered at lower levels, and that
要
different
处理
sectors
好
or
重大
departments
关
work
系。
in concert for
对一些
greater
利益关
synergy.
系复杂、
Consequential
这条难
relationships
度大
should be
的
properly
改革，
handled. To
要建
advance
立
reforms
强有
that
力的
involve complicated
协调推
interests
进机
and are
制，
difficult to coordinate
加
among
大
stakeholders,
督查问
strong
效的力度，
mechanisms should be in place
以定
for
钉子的精
coordination
神
and advancement,
抓好
oversight
改
and
革落实。
accountability be strengthened, and tireless efforts
三是
continued
推动
to
顶层
delivering
设计
reforms.
和基层探索有机的结
Third,
合，
designs at the top will be
充分依
combined
靠
with
人民群
explorations
众，
from below. We count on
在明
wisdom of the
确
people,
改革原则、
while
安全
observing the
底线的
principles
前
of
提下，
reform and ensuring
鼓
security.
励支持地方基层
Subnational
解放思想，
departments are encouraged and
大胆
supported to
试，
emancipate
大
thinking,
胆闯，
take bolder
结合
steps,
实际，
and innovate
因地
in
制
line with
宜，
local
开展
conditions.
创新，充分尊
Full
重
respect
基层
will be
和群
given
众
to
的
the
首创
enterprising
精神，
spirit of the local governments and
推
the
动成
people.
功经验
Successful
及时地
practices
复
will
制
be
推广，
promptly replicated,
提升。
applied elsewhere,
谢谢。
elsewhere, further consolidated and
好，下面继
fine-tuned.
续提问。
Thank you. Next question, please.
好，那个左手边第一排。
谢谢，澎湃新闻记者提问。
Thank
我们注
you.
意到
With
一段时
Peng
间
Pai.
以来，中国经济从宏观数据看保持了持续向好的态
From the
势，
paper, we
但是
noticed
宏
that
观
for
数
some
据和
time,
微观的总体
macroeconomic
总
data
体
shows
在
that the
一定
Chinese
的
economy
温
has
差。那
maintained
么
a
我
sound
想请问，
momentum, but
在
there
进一
seems to be
步
a
全
gap
面深化
between
改
what the
革
macro
过程
data
中，
reveals
如
and
何
how the
在 宏
individual entities
观经济
feel.
政策和
So,
体
as
制
China
机制改革
pursues
方
further
面，在
reform, how are you going
应
to
对
address this
维
gap
和
through
这个温差，
macroeconomic
实现
policies
经济
and
良
institutional
性循
reforms
环？
and
谢谢。
achieve a positive cycle of
那
economic
洪秀
growth?
同志来回答。
I would direct the question to Mr. Han.
当前啊，我国经济
Well,
保持了
currently, the
回
Chinese
升向好
economy
的
is
态
picking
势，
up and
高质量发展
moving in a positive
扎实推
direction.
进。主要
And
的
making
宏观
solid progress
经
in
济
high
指标啊
quality development.
符
All
合
the major
预期，
macroeconomic
同时
indicators are
也
in
面
line
临一
with
些
our
困难
expectation.
挑战。
On the other hand,
主要
we're
呢
also
是有效
confronted
需
with
求
some
不
difficulties
足
and challenges, which are mainly
一些企业呢
manifested
经营
in
困难
lack of effective
一些
demand,
地方财
difficulty
政困
in
难
the operation of some
表明啊
businesses, and the
我
financial
国经济恢
difficulties
复还不
for
够
some
强劲，
local governments.
或者
This
地
shows
区
that 企
行
China's
业
economic
企
recovery
业
is
之
not
间
strong
也
enough,
存在
and there is
分化现象。
divergence in the performance between
下一步
different
呢，
regions,
我们
industries,
要
and
推
businesses
动经济
going
持
forward in
续
order to
回
ensure
升向好，
sustained economic
实现
recovery
更
and
为均
achieve
衡、
more balanced
普惠、包容
and
的发展。
inclusive development that benefits
依
all.
靠政策
We
力
need to
二
rely
靠
on effective
改革
policy
发力，
and robust reform measures.
要更加有力有
We
效
need to
实施宏观调控政
introduce
策，
and implement more robust and
积极的财政
effective
政策呢，
macroeconomic control policies.
要更好
The proactive
发力
fiscal policy
见效，
must be used to better effect.
加快专项
We
债
need to
发行使用的进度，
accelerate the issuance of
确保
special purpose
基层
bonds
三保
and make sure
按时
that the
足额支
funds
出，
for meeting basic
发挥
living
好
needs,
财政资金
salary
对
payment,
经
and
济
smooth
增长
functioning of the
和
government
结
are
构调
paid
整的
and spent
杠
in
杆撬
full
动
and
作
on
用。
time, so as to
本间
better
的货币政策要
harness
灵
the
活适
leveraging
度、
role of
精准
fiscal
有
fund
效，
in driving
保持流
economic
动
growth
性
and
合
structural
理充
adjustment.
裕，
The prudent
积
monetary
极发
policy
展
need to be
科技
flexible,
金融、绿
appropriate,
色金融、
targeted,
普惠
and
金融、
effective. We
养老
need to
金融、
develop
数字金融，
technology finance, green
为
finance,
实体经
inclusive
济
finance,
提供
pension finance,
源
and
头
digital
活水，
finance, so as to provide
要
sustained
落
source
实
of
好
funds
两
for
新两
the
重
real
角色
economy.
部署，
We need to
实施好
implement the
大
two
规
news
模
and
设
two
备更
major
新和消
decisions
费品以旧换
on
新政
large-scale
策，投
equipment
入更
renewal
多
and
的
consumer goods trading, we need to invest more fiscal resources and increase policy support so that enterprises and consumers will receive tangible benefits. We need to combine the efforts to boost long-term momentum and dynamism of economic growth and stabilizing short-term growth, make good use of the ultra-long special treasury bonds, and step up efforts to implement major national strategies and build up security capacity in key areas. We need to enhance, we need to include non-economic activities into the assessment for the consistency of macroeconomic policy orientations so as to pull greater synergy for driving high-quality development. We also need to push forward reform in areas that can be felt and accessed by the people and the business sector. All reform efforts must be advanced by and for the people, and the outcomes and the fruits of reform must be shared by the people. We need to step up efforts to provide inclusive public services, meet essential needs, and provide a cushion for those most in need. Improve the wage determination, appropriate increase, and payment guarantee mechanism. Increase property income of the people through multiple channels, and increase the income of low-income population. We need to expand the long-term mechanism for expanding consumption, strengthen the mechanism for promoting high quality for employment, support and regulate the development of new forms of employment, improve the system for government investment to catalyze private investment, and form a market-based mechanism for boosting indigenous growth of effective investment, improve the mechanism for ensuring equal opportunities, and make sure that economic entities under all forms of ownership can enjoy equal access to production factors, equal participation in market competition, and equal protection of the law. We need to open channels for social mobility and create an environment to encourage people to achieve prosperity through hard work. We believe that through effective policy and robust reform, China's economy will become stronger, more balanced, and sustainable, so that micro entities will truly feel the benefits. Thank you.
这个第3排。
谢谢，我是凤凰卫视的记者。我们关注到上个月公布的2023年度国家科学技术奖
Phoenix TV, we have noted that in the State Science and Technology Awards for 2023 announced last month, 2/3 of the projects are led by higher education institutions, and the 2 recipients of the top award, academician Li Deren and Xue Qikun, are also working in universities. May I ask, how will the deepening of reform make higher education institutions more capable of pursuing sci-tech innovation and better nurturing talent independently? Thank you for your attention to and your recognition of the sci-tech innovation work in higher education institutions. We all know that universities and colleges are the convergence points of education, science and technology, and talent, the mainstay of basic research and the source of major sci-tech breakthroughs. It is among the most valuable resources of our state. In recent years, universities have played an important role in the national innovation system, for example, in the fields of quantum science, life science, material science, and space science. A number of major original achievements have been made. Going forward, we will focus on strengthening the layout of higher education and strengthening targeted and well-organized personnel training, and to, as well as the social services in universities, and strengthen the dual drivers of institutional innovation and sci-tech innovation so as to provide strong support for accelerating the building of world hubs for talent and innovation. First, we will advance the reform of colleges and universities in different categories. The economic and social development has diverse needs of different schools and talent. In universities, there must be both all-round players and champions of a particular race. We will clearly define the development orientation of different types of colleges and universities, establish category-based management and evaluation mechanisms, and guide different types of universities to give full play to their strengths, pursue excellence, and highlight their own characteristics in different fields and tracks. We will speed up the development of world-class universities with Chinese characteristics and competitive disciplines to nurture leading disciplines and focus on making breakthroughs and create a number of first-class exemplary disciplines. Second, we will focus on fostering innovation capacity. Creative Education cultivates creative talent, and creative talent contributes to an innovative country. We will focus on the major strategic needs of the country and the trend of sci-tech development, and dynamically adjust the discipline settings of universities, improve the personnel training model, and make special arrangements for urgently needed disciplines and specialties. We will carry out the national strategic action to cultivate top-notch talent in basic disciplines, deepen the development of new engineering, new medical sciences, new agricultural sciences, build first-class core courses, teaching materials, projects, and strengthen the coordination between science education and humanities education. We will improve students' knowledge of liberal arts to enhance the innovative thinking in science and technology, and build a system of independent thinking of high-quality, top-notch talent. Third, we will improve the mechanism of sci-tech innovation in universities. We will implement the basic disciplines and interdisciplinary breakthrough plan, make basic research better organized, and take major tasks as the engine of science and education integration. We will come up with more original and disruptive sci-tech innovation outcomes. In particular, we will strengthen the training of young sci-tech talent, guide and support a group of young college teachers that keep our country in mind and are strong in innovation. Through long-term, stable support, we will carry out high-level free exploration and venture into no man's land of science. We will improve the efficiency of the application of sci-tech gains in universities, build regional technology transfer and application centers in universities, accelerate the planning and building of research institutes, encourage closer cooperation between universities and enterprises, promote the high-level creation and efficient application of science and technology results, to contribute to the fostering of high-quality productive forces. Thank you.
谢谢主持人。新华社记者提问：法治兴则民族兴，法治强则国家强。
News Agency.
请问您如何看待
When the rule of law prevails, the nation and the country will prosper. How do you see the status and role of the rule of law on the new journey of further comprehensive deepening reform and advancing Chinese modernization? How to pursue reform and uphold the rule of law at the same time, and how to ensure that major reforms are made on legal basis and the gains of reform are timely made into legal rules? Thank you for your question. Reform and the rule of law complement each other and go hand in hand. On the face of it, reform means breaking and changing, yet the rule of law means establishing and stabilizing, so the two seem to be contradictory. But in essence, reform and the rule of law are dialectical unity of breaking and establishing and changing and stabilizing. All reforms and new policies in history were closely linked to legislation and rules making. What has happened since China's reform and opening up also shows that the realization of the rule of law will not be possible without reform, and the deepening of the reform needs the underpinning of the rule of law. After the 18th CPC National Congress, the third and fourth plenary sessions held in 2013 and 2014 respectively made strategic arrangements on deepening reform comprehensively and promoting law-based governance comprehensively. The two resolutions adopted at the two plenary sessions complement each other very well. And allow me to draw an analogy. Reform and the rule of law are like two wings of a bird and two wheels of a cart. Over the years, we have pursued reform and the rule of law in tandem, and we have made many important achievements and gained valuable experience during this process. In terms of the legislative work, of the 303 laws currently in effect, 78 were newly enacted after the third plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee, including the Civil Code, which is of great significance. Of 303 laws, a total of 334 amendments were made to 147 laws out of them, including the amendments to the Constitution adopted in 2018. On the new journey, further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization should be organically combined with further advancing law-based governance comprehensively and give better play to the important role of the rule of law. In the resolution of the important measures, tasks, and demands, many involve the enactment, amendment, repeal, interpretation, codification, and related authorization and approval of laws. So this raised many new topics and requirements for legislative work, and we need to make new responses through deepening legislative reform. The resolution clearly set out some important tasks concerning legislation and revision in relevant parts, including the enactment of the private sector promotion law, the finance law, the national unity and progress promotion law, the anti-cross-border corruption law, and the revision of the oversight law and the supervision law, and the codification of the ecological environment code. We must fully follow through on the guiding principles of the third plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee, adapt to the changing circumstances and new requirements, and strive to properly handle the relationship between reform and the rule of law. For laws and regulations that need to be there for deepening reform, we will formulate them in a timely manner. For matters where practical experience is not yet sufficient and there is a need to start a pilot program for more experience, authorization may be made according to law. So, existing legal provisions that do not meet the requirements of reform and development shall be revised and improved in a timely manner or abolished in accordance with the law. For matters where the relevant reform decisions have been clearly made and multiple laws need amending, we can adopt a package amendment approach to deal with them in one attempt. For institutional innovation measures that need to be advanced step by step, a resolution plus legislation or resolution plus amendment approaches can be adopted, which means that making relevant resolution in accordance with the law first before arranging and promoting relevant legislative work in a timely manner. That's it from me now. Next question, please.
Thank you. From CNBC. How does China plan to balance the slowdown in the real estate sector with supporting new economic growth drivers in the face of rising trade tensions with major trade partners? Thank you.
美国消费者新闻和商业频道，在与主要经济体的贸易紧张局势加剧的形势下，中国如何在应对房地产放缓和培育发展新经济增长引擎之间取得平衡？
这是韩文秀同志的回答吧。
I also direct a question to Mr. Han Wenxiu.
大家知道啊，我国的房地产市场
As you all know,
规模大，
China's real estate
牵涉面
market is large in size and involves a lot of sectors. It has a systemic impact on the functioning of the market economy. Currently, the supply and demand in the real estate market is undergoing major changes, and the market is in the process of adjustment. We need to uphold the principles of seeking progress while maintaining stability and establishing the new before abolishing the old. Resolve problems in the course of development through reform, speed up the shift from old to new drivers, and provide diverse and strong driving forces for high-quality development.
3方面，持续发力。
In particular, we need to focus our efforts in 3 areas.
促进房地产市场
Firstly, we need to
平稳
promote
健康发展。
stable and healthy development of the real estate
房地
market.
产市场正在出
Recently,
现
there have been
积
some
极变化。
positive changes in the real estate
我们要
market.
坚持
We need
消
to
化存量
make progress
和
in both
优化增量相结合，
absorbing existing stock
进一
and
步落
improving
实和
new
完善
supplies. Further
房地产
implement and
新政
improve
策，
the new policies
切实
for
做
real
好
estate
保交房工作，
development, ensure delivery
盘
of
活
housing
存量
projects,
商品房
and
和
activate
土
the
地资
stock
源。
of residential
下一步呢，
properties and land
要
resources.
贯彻落实好党的
Going forward,
20
we
届
need
三
to
中全会精
implement
神，
the decisions
加快构
made at
建
the third plenum,
房地产发展
speed up
新模
the
式，
development
消
of new
除
model
过
for
去
real estate
高负债
development,
高周转、
eliminate
高
the
杠杆
problems
的
of
模式弊端，
old models featuring
建
high
设
debt, high
适应人
turnover,
民
and
群
high
众
leverage,
新期待的好房子，
and build better housing
更好满足
that
刚
can
性
meet the
和
new
改善
expectations
性
of people,
住房需求，
and also better meet
便
people's
要建
essential
立
needs for
与
a
之
home to
相
live
适
in
应的
and their
融
demands
资、
for better
财
housing.
税、土
We
地
also need to
销售
establish
等等
foundational
基础性
systems,
制度。
including financing,
需要指出的是
fiscal
呢，
and taxation, land
我国
sales,
新型市
and
镇
in
化
other sectors
仍然在持
to
续
cope
推
with
进，
this new demand.
房地
I
产
want to
高
point
质
out
发
that
展还有
as
相当
China's
大的发展
continues
空
to make
间。
progress in new urbanization,
二是
there
要
is still
加快
vast
发展新
space
型
for
产业
development in the
和
real estate
未来
market.
产业，
Secondly, we need to
培育
speed up
壮
the
大
development
新
of
的
the
经
emerging
济增长
industries
引
and the
擎。
future industries and
近
cultivate
年来，我们已经
new
形成了
engines for
高端
economic
装备、
growth. In recent years,
新
we
能源
have
汽车、光伏等一
cultivated
批
a
优
number
势
of
产业。
competitive industries,
新一代
including
信息
high-end
技术、
equipment,
新
new
材料、
energy vehicles,
低空经济、
photovoltaic,
新型储能
and
等
emerging
等
industries
新兴
like
产
new
业
generation
发展
information
向好，
technology, new
累
materials,
计
low
培
attitude
育了
economy,
专精
and
特
new
新中
type
小
of
企业
energy
超过
storage
14万
are
家。
also thriving, and we have
我们要按照三
cultivated
中全会
over
决定做出的部署，
140,000
因
SMEs
地
that
制
use
宜发展
sophisticated and
新质生
specialized
产力，
technology to
大力
produce
培育
novel
壮
and
大
unique
新兴
products.
产业，
We need to
布
follow the
局建
planning
设未来产业，
made at the third
改
plenum
造提升
to
传统
develop
产
high
业，
quality
推动制造业
high
高
quality
端化、智能化、
productive
绿色化
forces
发
in
展，
line with local conditions,
形成一批
cultivate
新型
and strengthen
支柱
emerging
产业，
industries,
不但增强发
make
展的
good
驱
plans
动
for
的新
future
优势。
industries, upgrade traditional industries, and
三是
promote
要扩大国
high-end
内需求，
intelligent and
特
green
别
manufacturing
是消费需
industries,
求，
and
增
cultivate
强国内大
a
循环的
group of
内
emerging
生动
pillar
力
industries
和
to
可
strengthen
靠
the
性。
momentum for development.
面对新
Thirdly,
的
we
国
need to
际环
expand
境，
domestic
我们要
demand,
稳
especially
住
consumer
外贸
demand,
外
to
资
enhance
基
the
本盘，
internal drive
不
and
断拓展
reliability
我
of
国
the
的发展
domestic
空间，
economic flows. In the face
同
of the new
时
international
要充
environment,
分挖
we need
掘
to ensure stable
内需
performance of
潜
foreign
力，
trade and foreign
充分
investment,
利用
and
国内
expand the
超
space
大
for
规模
China's
市场优
development.
势，
In the meantime, we
充
need to
分
fully
发
tap
挥
into the
消费的
potential
系统
of
作用
domestic
和
development,
投
make
资
full
的
use of
关键作
China's
用，
strength of a
推动我国
supersized
经济
market,
实现质的
fully
有效
leverage
提
the
升
foundational
和
role of
量的
consumption and the
合理
critical
增长。
role of investment,
中
effectively
国经济
pursue
啊
high
是
quality economic
大国
growth,
经
and
济，
appropriately
内需
increase
潜力大，
economic
内
output.
部
And China's
可循
economy is
环。
an economy of a big
只要
country.
办好
We
自己
have
的事，就
strong
能够
domestic
确保
demand
国民
and
经济
sound
循
domestic
环畅
circulation.
通，
As long as we
行
can
稳
manage our own
致远。
affairs well, we will ensure
好，谢
smooth
谢。
functioning and
好，继续提
circulation
问。
of the Chinese economy. Thank you.
刚刚这位第三排东区第三排这位女士。
谢谢主持人。新加坡联合早报提问。
With 联合早报，
局势动荡，中国面临的外部不确定性也在增加。想请问，这是否会影响中国继续推进改革、扩大开放？
Will it affect China's reform and opening up endeavors? Thank you.
穆宏同志。
I will direct the question to Mr. Mu Hong.
感谢您的提问。
Thank you for your question.
习近平总书记曾经讲过。
General Secretary Xi Jinping once put it this way: stay firm, shore up confidence, and focus on running our own affairs well. This is the key to helping us navigate all kinds of risks and challenges. Reform and opening up is an important tool for our country to keep abreast with the times. It's a hallmark of the CPC and something that the general public agrees on. Since beginning of the new era, in face of challenging and complicated international and domestic dynamics, the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core has remained committed to reform and opening up. Issues encountered in the course of development are handled with a reform-oriented mindset and approach. The third plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee kicked off efforts for comprehensively deepening reform in the new era. At this plenary session, the 20th CPC Central Committee has laid out plans to further deepen reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. We are moving ahead, one step at a time, toward our goals, undeterred by any risk and unswayed by any disturbance. This demonstrates the strong determination and will of our party to press ahead with reforms. And it is because of the steadfast commitment that the party has been able to identify, respond to, and steer changes in an accurate and proper way. This enables us to stay ahead of the curve in a changing world and also to shape our own future for development and progress. Reform and opening up is China's fundamental state policy. These two elements are mutually reinforcing. Opening up has been conducive to reform and development, and experience China has gained over the course of its development. As we speak, transformation not seen in a century is unfolding at a faster pace. External uncertainties are growing, but it will not weaken China's determination or confidence to deepen reform and expand opening up. On many occasions, General Secretary Xi Jinping stressed that China's door will not close, but will only open wider, and that China will adhere to its fundamental state policy of opening up and stay committed to opening up to promote reform, development, and innovation, and bring about opening up at a higher level. The resolution of this plenary session also covers opening up, including institutional opening up, structural reform on foreign trade, inbound and outbound investment management, improving planning for regional opening up, and refining mechanisms for high-quality Belt and Road cooperation. All these send an unequivocal signal of China's commitment to high-standard opening up. As China moves to foster a new development paradigm, it will, on the basis of its supersized domestic market, continue enhancing the depth and breadth of opening up as it promotes dual circulation. China will nurture new strengths in its high-standard open economy and actively participate in global economic governance reforms. China will share its development opportunities and, together with the rest of the world, embrace a brighter future. Thank you.
西区第一排。
谢谢主持人。人民日报记者提问：从已经发布的
From People's Daily, we have seen in the communique that a set of important reform measures are proposed. Tasks ahead are heavy. It was stressed that implementation should be advanced with relentless persistence. Could you please elaborate on that? Thank you.
这个请唐方宇同志回答吧。
I'll give the floor to Mr. Tang Fangyu.
谢谢你的提问啊。
Thank you for your question.
是的，全会决定强调以钉钉子精神。
The resolution indeed emphasized on working with relentless persistence to ensure the implementation of reforms. This is the last piece of all 60 items and carries a lot of weight. We all know that for everything we do, implementation is vitally important. Some might put it this way: 10% is on planning, while 90% on implementation. This is a conclusion drawn based on an understanding of how things can be done. General Secretary Xi Jinping once pointed out that if implementation falls short, goals and blueprints, however visionary they are, will be elusive as if they are reflections of flowers in the mirror or a moon in the water. Let me put it this way. The deeper we go in reforms, the more deep-seated and acute the problems are, the harder the nuts will be, and the more difficult for us to take steps forward. Only with greater, earnest efforts on implementation can such challenges be overcome and barriers caused by entrenched interests removed. This is a way to deliver more, better fruits of modernization to the broadest swath of the population and make constant progress in reform endeavors. Here's how I understand working with relentless persistence on implementation. There are a few key points. First, understanding what exactly reform asks of us. We must fully understand the overall plannings for further deepening reform comprehensively, put all reform measures into context, what they stand for, where they're getting at and what they connote. For each measure, we must understand on what basis innovation can take place, what its key is, where its boundary lies, and how this is related to other reform measures. This will enable a more targeted approach to delivering the reforms. That is number one. Second, making roadmaps for implementation. We need to take concrete, well-designed steps to turn visions into reality. Timeline should be set for reform measures in line with their priority levels and steps taken one after another. Third, enforcing responsibilities. Reform measures and henceforth responsibilities should be assigned to relevant entities. The principal agency, participating departments, terms of reference, and who would undertake the tasks should be clarified. For reform measures that require trans-regional or interagency efforts, i.e., difficult for any particular departments to undertake, the party committees and governments should take up the responsibility to make arrangements for coordination in order to avoid overlapping of competencies. Fourth, strengthening inspection oversight and accountability. Special inspection, overall inspection, and integrated inspection programs will be carried out and real efforts made to diagnose problems and solve them. Progress on major reform implementation will be included in inspection work. How well a reform is implemented will be evaluated according to actual performances and whether or not the people are satisfied. Fifth, making unremitting efforts. We must be aware of how complicated and difficult reform is, keep to the right direction, take firm steps forward, and make concrete, earnest efforts to advance reforms. Tasks will be accomplished one after another, and blueprints will eventually be turned into reality. It requires all party members to work with relentless persistence to deliver implementation of the reforms. We need to work together to advance national rejuvenation through a Chinese path to modernization. Thank you.
中间第3排，靠左栏这位女士。
谢谢主持人。光明日报记者提问：目前群众对上好学的需要越来越高，请问如何通过进一步深化改革，加快缩小教育的城乡、区域和地校体、群体差距，让每个孩子都能享有公平而有质量的教育？
谢谢您的提问，让每个孩子都享有
Ensuring that every child has access to fair and quality education is integral to upholding the people-centered approach to education. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, all 2,895 county-level administrative units have realized basic equilibrium in compulsory education. And the availability of education has made historic progress. In particular, preschool education and compulsory education have reached the average level of high-income countries in the world. Going forward, we will take high-quality development as the lifeline of all types of education at all levels, ensure equity in all aspects and links of deepening education reform comprehensively, and promote the fundamental transition from having access to education to enjoying good education. First, in the allocation of resources, we will place emphasis on improving quality and increasing the supply of high-quality educational resources. We will make forward-looking arrangements in response to the variations between the peak and the valley of the school-age population, improve the allocation of regional education resources, and establish a mechanism for providing basic public education services that is commensurate with population changes. We will improve the mechanism for promoting high-quality and balanced comprehensive education, promote school consortiums, and rural-urban pairing assistance, promote the growth of new quality schools, and there are more and more good schools well recognized by the public. Second, in education and teaching, we will put students front and center. We will strengthen students' well-rounded education and promote the all-round development of all students. We will carry out the basic task of fostering virtue through education, improve the relevance and attractiveness of ideological and political courses, strengthen the cultivation of students' interest in sports, athletics, and work, and make mental health education widely accessible. We will promote the healthy growth of students. We'll continue to relieve students of excessive burdens from homework and off-campus tutoring. We will increase the quality of after-school services and improve the mechanism for coordinated child rearing between schools, families, and society. Improve the care system for migrant children, left behind children, and children with disabilities, and create a sound environment where the whole society cares for children. Third, in the support mechanism, we will foster public support for public respect for educators and encourage public support for education. We will further improve the teacher training system with Chinese characteristics, further implement and expand the training of high-caliber primary and secondary school teachers in the double first-class universities. We will encourage excellent primary and secondary school principals and teachers to teach in schools in rural areas or weaker schools, to improve the incentive mechanism so that they are willing and able to teach well and play a leading role in these schools. Fourth, in the exploration of new paths, we will highlight digital empowerment and give play to the new strength of smart education. Education digitalization is an effective way to narrow education gap and improve education quality. We will further implement the national strategy for education digitalization, better build and make better use of the National Smart Education Public Service Platform, and promote the extensive sharing of high-quality education resources. We will vigorously promote the development of smart campuses, build a Chinese version of the AI education large model, and explore large-scale individualized, innovative, and creative teaching to better meet the needs of the people for better schooling. That's it from me. Thank you.
好，这个时间关系啊，最后一个提问吧。这样那个 最后一个机会，我们给到这个东区第4排我们这位外国记者。
Thank you. Market News International. Since the beginning of this year, foreign direct investment has continued to decrease. But foreign investors' interest in China's capital markets has been rising. What new measures will China take to expand opening and attract foreign investment? Thank you.
美国市场新闻社，今年以来，外商直接投资有所减少，但境外投资者对中国资本市场的关注度在上升。请问中国在扩大对外开放和吸引外资方面有哪些新的举措？
我们还是请韩文秀同志回答。
好
，Then I will give the floor to Mr. Han Wenxiu.
谢谢您的提问。
Thank you for your question.
对外开放是我们的基本国策。
Opening up is a basic state policy of China, and foreign businesses are an important participant and active contributor to China's economic and social development. Due to changes in the international environment and other factors, there is now a decline in China's utilization of foreign investment. But this is only temporary. With improvement in China's business environment and growing market opportunities, the utilization of foreign investment will continue to expand. The third plenum of the 20th CPC Central Committee has made important plans for advancing high standard opening up and expanding the use of foreign investment. So I will stress 3 points. Firstly, we will steadily expand institutional opening up. We need to embrace high standard international trading rules. And in areas such as property rights protection, industrial subsidy, environmental standards, labor protection, government procurement, e-commerce, and finance, we need to promote harmonization and the connectivity of rules, regulations, management, and standards. We need to push forward the building of an efficient, convenient, and secure cross-border data flow mechanism and foster transparent, stable, and predictable institutional environment. Recently, we have introduced unilateral visa waiver policy for some countries, which are very well received and produced good results. We will continue to improve the convenience of accommodation, medical services, and payment for foreign tourists and business travelers in China. Secondly, we will further ease market access restrictions. We will deliver on the requirement of removing all restrictions on foreign investment access in manufacturing sector as early as possible. Expand the catalog of encouraged industries for foreign investment. And shorten the negative list for foreign investment access as appropriate. We will expand opening of the service sector, implement the negative list on cross-border service trade, and open up telecommunications, internet, education, culture, and medical services sectors in orderly manner. We will also speed up the development of offshore trade. Thirdly, we will safeguard national treatment and lawful rights and interests of foreign companies. We will support the development of domestic and foreign companies on an equal basis, guarantee the national treatment of foreign companies in terms of access to factors of production, licensing, standard setting, and government procurement. In recent years, there have been some good practices in various localities with regard to the protection of the business secret and intellectual property rights of foreign companies. The investment rights and interests of foreign businesses are well protected and ensured. Currently, globalization is under tremendous challenges. Opposing unilateralism, protectionism, and safeguarding global economic order and the security and stability of the industrial and supply chains is a responsibility shared by all governments and companies. We will continue to improve the market-oriented, law-based, and world-class business environment. We are willing to share the great opportunities provided by China's development of new quality productive forces and the advance of Chinese modernization. We are pleased and wish to see foreign companies grow their business together with the Chinese economy. Thank you. And to thank all the speakers and thank all the journalists. That brings us to the end of today's press conference. Thank you.
That was a press conference held by the 20th CPC Central Committee on the guiding principles from its third plenary session and some key features from this crucial document passed at this plenary session titled The Resolution of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China on Further Deepening Reform Comprehensively to Advance Chinese Modernization. The plenary session concluded on Thursday, mapping out the country's strategy to deepen reform and advance modernization. Now, for more insight, we're joined in the studio by Mr. Chu Qiang and Mr. Li Yong. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. So, from this press conference, Mr. Tang Fangyu said this crucial resolution adopted at this plenary session has 15 parts, 60 items, and proposed more than 300 important reform measures. And from the communique of this plenary session, we can tell that the reform tasks laid out in this resolution shall be completed by the time of the People's Republic of China celebrates its 80th anniversary in 2029, 5 years away. Bearing that in mind, how important, how significant is this plenary session, Mr. Chu?
Well, I think this is actually a very important third plenary. It reminds me another very important third plenary, which is in 1978. It's the 11th third plenary. That is, everybody probably understand what is a historic milestone that conference is, because it set up a very important target for China to open up and reform and achieve for the first time modernization. And I think through that conference, we try to solve one problem: how can China achieve the achievement from 0 to 1? But this time, I think China is trying to set up a higher target, higher bar. How can we achieve from 1 to 100? So I think both of this conferences set it up a very important target for China to improve its work and also to improve the social progress in the further future. So I think through this conference and from this communique, we can read many important information in here. For example, first of all, in China, what is a high quality or high standard modernization compared to only modernization? Well, I think in the 11th third plenary, what we want to achieve is how can we switch China from a closed-up economy to an open economy? How can we turn China into a impoverished economy into a moderately well-off economy? But right now, I think China wants to have a more standard in here. For example, in the past, we only need to build, certain kind of opening up or the certain kind of labor-intensive industry, and that's good to go. But right now, we want to build more of the synergy among diversified players. For example, how can we build synergy between SOEs and the private sectors? How can we have more of the opening up to invite more of the international investors, the business to come into China? And secondly, how can we make our economy more efficient, to be tax savvy, to have sci-tech leading? This is very difficult because it requires lots of the talent building, it requires lots of investment, the role of the government, the role of the private sector, the role of the multinationals, and they all need to be in here and to absorb more of the international leading of the technologies into China. And how can we be, on one hand, more efficient, on the other hand, to be greener? Well, in the past, we try to be modernized, so we run after lots of labor-intensive, also resources-intensive industries. Well, economy grows very fast, but also what's the externality? What's the pollution? What's the cost of our people's health? And right now, we try to, on one hand, have high added value, but on the other hand, we want to have lush mountains and clear waters, and that requires green transition. They requires, different road of the pattern of the development, and also, last but not least, what's the soft power? Culture, we try to run after the economic profit, high growth of the industrial indicators, but what's about people's culture life? What is culture civilization? About traditional culture, are we forgotten that, or we try to solidify that? And also about safety. This is, well, to a lot of the developed economy, when we go there, we see skyscrapers, we see the modernized economy, but where is the safety? The junkie street, the robbery, and the public security can be a problem. But in China, if you walk through all kinds of the street, you'll find out everybody are so safe to walk on the street like 3 o'clock in the morning. So this is also something very important that we will continue and improve in the future. So all in all, we're going to say that in China, our high-level modernization, we're going to be more coordinated, greener, cleaner, and also with more of the balanced integration and with more of the safety and with a rich culture deposit. And that is a very important high bar, and we're going to achieve that in the next 5 years.
And looking ahead, this path of Chinese modernization is not only about accomplishing more than 300 reform measures in the next 5 years, and the communique from this plenary session clearly states that by the year 2035, we will finish building a high-standard socialist market economy in all respects and basically realize the socialist modernization. Furthermore, the document says a high-standard socialist market economy will provide an important guarantee for Chinese modernization. Mr. Li, what's your reading into this?
Well, of course, everything when it is high standards is going to be very important. When achieving modernization and when achieving high quality, you need to find out, what are the challenges and problems lying ahead. Dealing with them is going to be an awesome task. The communique listed at least 14, reform tasks, and that I think lead to more detailed, more than 300 reform items, and those I think will, if they are effectively addressed, they are going to, pave the foundation to achieving the 2035 goal. So that is very important because, dealing with those, Professor Chu mentioned so many, things lying ahead, so many goals that we're supposed to achieve. We need to have a kind of a mechanism, to make sure that those, issues, those reforms are going to be, issues addressed, reforms, to be accomplished. That also requires, the concerted effort, from all the government departments, from the central government, local, and from all the sectors, industrial, technological, agriculture, to work together, under the guidance of this resolution, because, this resolution is kind of an epoch-making resolution. That, from this point in time, we are going to enter into a time that we're going to face, for example, serious challenges externally and domestic challenges as well. So we need to be aware of those challenges, and we need to be firm in terms of our determinations, to deal with the challenges. And of course, we need to liberalize our mind, in terms of, creating innovative policies and measures whatsoever, to achieve, first to complete the reform agenda, and then going forward to achieve the modernization goal in 2035.
And gentlemen, building a high-standard socialist market economy is also in focus at Friday morning's press conference. The Communist Party of China's Executive Deputy Director for Financial and Economic Affairs has emphasized the CPC leadership's commitment. Take a look.
First, building high-standard socialist market economy. The decision stresses that we need to better leverage the role of the market, create a more fairer and more dynamic market environment, stimulate the internal drive and the creativity of the whole society. On the one hand, we need to deepen reform of state-owned capital and SOEs to make them stronger, better, and bigger. On the other hand, we need to create enabling environment and provide more opportunities for the development of the non-public sector, improve the long-term mechanism for private enterprises to take part in major national projects, and support capable private enterprises in leading key national technological research and development initiatives, and regulate administrative inspection concerning private enterprises. Rule of law is the best business environment. We need to formulate the law on the promotion of private sector.
Now, Mr. Chu, what you're reading into the key messages from the plenary session, and let me refer you to the original wording of the communique regarding public and non-public sectors. We will unswervingly consolidate and develop the public sector and unswervingly encourage, support and guide the development of the non-public sector.
Well, I think this has made it very clear about the role between the SOEs and the private sectors. Private sector is always the most important driving force of the Chinese economy in the past 40 years. Well, if you understand that in China we have more than 60% of the GDP and more than 70% of the R&D input and more than 80% of the job providing has been done by the private sectors. And especially China has been marking so much on high-level modernization as well as the new quality productive forces. If I take a look, all those pioneers and champions, many of them are actually private sectors, or they have a joint venture or a concerted effort like Professor Lee just mentioned with SOE. While BYD, Huawei, Alibaba, Tencent, all these famous names, just to name it, they're all from private sectors. They have been doing so many important, contribution to not only Chinese economy but also serving effectively and with equality to the world market. So I think currently what we should do, and also facing the future, how can we have a higher ground in our economy and facing the world market, is that to mobilize, try to mobilize everybody, join the same page. Well, private sector is definitely yes. So what we can do is right now we set up a very clear rule, decided what kind of the sectors everybody can join this thing together. Well, in the past, sometimes due to the national security issue, due to the privacy issue, we have hesitated a little bit about whether a lot of the private sector company can come into it or not, because the rule of law, the regulations are not yet very matured in this sector. But now with the building of the legal system, the regulations, and for example, privacy protections, and now we can be very confidently to invite all kinds of the players to come into these areas, to let them play their best, to serve the market, serve their nation, and serve the clients. So right now, I think the message is right now loud and clear, and everybody can be in here in national defense, digitalization, green transition, and even further to some larger area, the Belt and Road Initiative. We will invite everybody to partner together, and then heading towards the same goal. And I think this is not only a requirement for achieving the high level of the modernization, but also the very important target itself to have this modernization in the first place, because in all, we need everybody to have a higher living standard, to let everybody to join the same prosperity.
And yes, Mr. Lee.
Yes, I think what we really mean about high level or high quality socialist market economy is basically, is going to be characterized by the kind of level playing field, regardless who you are. Okay, all the market participants are supposed to be treated equally. And right now, we are trying to address the issues of equal treatment, for example. The non-public or the private sector. They are facing some sort of unequal treatment. That need to be addressed. And there have been a lot measures being taken, but still, we have a lot to do going into that direction. That is very important because, we need to have equal access, for them to have equal access to markets, equal access to factors of production, and unleashing the potential of the private sector or the non-public sector is so important. Professor Chu mentioned about the percentages. For example, the private sector, occupies. But I give you another number, in terms of the role that private sector play in the innovation. Okay,
which is also a key word from this plenary session for the road.
Yes, innovation. In the communique, innovation mentioned about 10 times. There are 60% of the patents were contributed by the private sector or the private enterprises. Okay, 75% of the technological innovation are provided by private enterprises. And more to that, more than 80% of the new product development are by the private sectors. Think about this. If they are receiving the equal treatment, the kind of property protection, property right protection, okay, the kind of access and the kind of policy support. They are facing problems of like, it's not really unique in China, the problems. They are small
and
to medium
dealing
size.
with those problems and challenges you just mentioned, we can see that whole grand design has been established and it's more about implementation. Very quickly, Mr. Chu, what are the key messages you've been getting on implementing this grand design for China's future to modernization?
Well, I think the whole plan is that they're relentlessly forging forward this reform and opening up, forging forward all the policies for implementation. We really need to see this done. Look, when everybody looking at the communique, they say, okay, there's a lot of concepts that are very familiar with us. Yes, indeed, because this is not a short-term job. Actually, we've been starting this endeavor, starting all these kind of the efforts, starting actually since the 18th Party Congress, and also facing the next 5 years and even 10 years or 20 years towards the 100th anniversary of the Chinese New China's birthday. So this communique is actually a wrapping up what we have already been started from 18th Party Congress in the past 10 years. So it's like sorting out, characterizing all the things we have already done and make sure that everybody's on the same page, understand what's happening in the past 10 years, and also setting up a new target for the next 5 years or even next 20 years to see, okay, this is something we have already done and something is very, very important. We're going to forging ahead relentlessly for the implementation and then to do the next step. So this is like bearing on the past and also forging ahead. So this is very important and set up the tone for our implementation in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chu Chang and Mr. Li Yong there. And that's it for this edition of The World Today on CGTN. I'm Pan Zheng in Beijing. Stay tuned.